So, how did this is Max Blumenthal from the Gray Zone Project? How did a British former Bernie Sanders field organizer wind up as a key staffer at a military intelligence front that relentlessly smears the left? Huh? And why does this internal doc say he conducted a special study on Russian interference in U.S. elections? So I go to the Gray Zone article about this because there's a lot of different articles talking about this that haven't gotten any attention in the mainstream press. So we go to this guy. Max says, I don't know how these people. Anyway, he did great work on this. This guy's name is Bracey Lane. He's a 20-something British citizen with no publicly acknowledged experience in intelligence work. But as Klansberg noted, there are some unusual details, and that's another journalist, there are some unusual details in the young staffer's bio. In 2016, Bracey Lane appeared out of nowhere to work in Iowa as a field organizer for the Bernie Sanders campaign for president. This guy. Out of nowhere. By the way, he's a British citizen. I spent a year, he said, this is him, I spent a year saving all my money. Just thought I was going to go on a 2-month road trip from Seattle to New York. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to stay and work for the Bernie Sanders campaign. Really? Never political before in your life. Never about all of a sudden on my 2-month fun thing, I'm just going to stop and go work for free in another country for someone else's government. What the effing F? That, I'm telling right, that doesn't, the smell test, boy, that smells like a load. Bracey Lane also claimed to AFP, I'm not sure there's a place for me in British politics. I've never been struck by an urge to work in my own political system. But you go on vacation and you decide to work in another country's political system? In a state like Iowa? There's nothing to see in Iowa. Mm-hmm. In a state like Iowa, there's nothing there. I mean, there's farms. Got to have farms.
There's corn.
There's corn. I've been to Iowa. I used to go to Des Moines every year to tell jokes at the Funny Bone. Nothing there. Nice people.
Riverboat Casino.
Riverboat Casino. Nice people. However, a February 1st, 2016 profile of Bracey Lane by BuzzFeed's Jim Watterson said the Brit for Bernie, quote, was inspired to rejoin the Labour Party in September 2015 when Corbyn was elected leader. But by that point, he was already in the United States on holiday. It is clearly odd for Bracey Lane to tell one reporter that he had never had any interest in British politics, while claiming to another that he had been eager to support Corbyn before he joined the Bernie campaign. What's more, as Klarenberg reported, Bracey Lane went on to establish a get-out-the-vote effort for various progressive politicians and parties inside Britain's 2017 general election, gaining inside access to a wide array of campaigns. Boy, for a guy who didn't think there was a spot for him in British politics, he certainly got into it. And it was weird. It was right after. The contradiction in Bracey Lane's narrative raises serious questions about his real role on the Bernie campaign, as does his suddenly transition from progressive politics to a staff position at a military-backed propaganda farm. What? So he went from working with progressive politicians to working at a military-backed propaganda farm? Maybe he was working at that propaganda farm all along. You think? A propaganda farm that waged a covert information war on Jeremy Corbyn and other left-leaning politicians across the West. So he went on, I'm going to show you the organization he works for, and how they smeared Corbyn, and how they smeared other left-wing, and it's all funded, guess who it's funded by? Government. Western governments. And NATO. Yep, and they're smearing people? Oh, really? Governments are funding smears against other politicians and citizens in their country. Not foreigners, in their own country. Get this. This is kind of interesting. At Thanksgiving, I was asked, why are you meddling? Brady Lane remarked to Reuters, referring to his work for Bernie Sanders, which is an interesting way to phrase it, but I was happy to answer. It needs meddling with. Meddling. That's coming from this guy. People ask me, why am I meddling? These comments take on an entirely different meaning now that the former Bernie field worker has been outed as part of a British military intelligence influence operation. What? What? Well, let's start. Let's back up. So they keep saying that Russia is doing all these troll farming on Twitter and Facebook. Let's be honest, they only spent $50,000 on Facebook ads before the election and $50,000 after the election. And the CEO of Google testified in Congress that Russia spent a total of $4,700 across all of Google's platforms. Nate Silver has pointed out that the amount of tweets and other social media engagements by Russia would amount to about 0.01% of all the social media interactions. And to say that that has an influence on people lacks evidence and goes against common sense. That's Nate Silver. And so just keep in mind that the United States government has been doing the exact same thing. And now we're finding out that the British government has been doing the exact same thing. We showed you that since 2011, the United States has been doing the social media stuff, as The Guardian reported in 2011, before any of this stuff happened. Here's another. Recent hacked documents have revealed an international network of politicians, journalists, academics, researchers, and military officials all engaged in highly deceptive covert propaganda campaigns funded by the British Foreign and Commonwealth Office, known as the FCO, also funded by NATO, also funded by Facebook, and also funded by hardline national security institutions. Recent hacked documents have revealed an international network of politicians, journalists, academics, researchers, and military officers, all engaged in highly deceptive covert propaganda campaigns funded by governments. What does this sound like? I remember the Church Committee report, which was in the late 70s, which outed a vast network of CIA and operatives which had infiltrated the U.S. media for decades. That's the United States Senate Church Committee outed them. They had over 400 journalists working for the CIA in the United States press corps. Nobody ever talks about that. Look it up. Google the Church Committee. Go ahead. This sounds exactly like that, except now it's international. International network of politicians, journalists, academics, researchers, and military officers, all in highly deceptive covert propaganda funded by the British government, by NATO, by Facebook, and other hardline national security institutions. So this is a big deal. And by the way, no one's reporting this in the press, in the mainstream press. I mean, you got to go to places like the Gray Zone to get this, or a Jagoff nightclub comedian. Now, so here's the one that the Bernie Sanders guy was working for. Ben Norton says, well, the Integrity Initiative, that's what it's called, the Integrity Initiative. How Orwellian. The Integrity Initiative, yet another monitoring group that tracks disinformation supposedly spread by Russia to destroy Western democracy, just admitted that it is funded by the UK government. So this is officially British disinformation. So the Integrity Initiative is actually a disinformation project. It's propaganda. That's what's happening. And they're pushing Russiagate. Isn't that interesting? This network of networks, as one document refers to them, centers around an ironically named outfit called the Integrity Initiative. And it is all overseen by a previously unknown England-based think tank registered in Scotland, the Institute for Statecraft, which is operated under a veil of secrecy. So the Integrity Initiative, funded by the governments, NATO, they've been operating out of Scotland, or out of a think tank registered in Scotland called the Institute for Statecraft. They're supposed to be a charity, Institute for Statecraft. They're not. So these are all PSYOP organizations. These are all deep state spying shit. So the Institute for Statecraft Integrity Initiative. So here it is. Here's what it says. The Integrity Initiative. This is from their website. And it says the Integrity Initiative is a partnership of several independent institutions led by the Institute for Statecraft. This international public program was set up in 2015 to counter disinformation and other forms of malign influence being conducted by states and sub-state actors seeking to interfere in democratic processes and to undermine public confidence in national political institutions. Boy, this sounds fairly familiar to the story we did yesterday about that organization called New Knowledge that wrote the Senate report on Russian interference in our elections, and it turns out those guys are grifters. What they're doing is creating a problem so they can sell you the solution. We just showed that to you in our other video yesterday from New Knowledge. And it's all run by former spies and spooks. And so they're creating a problem. Russia's controlling everybody's minds and organizations and governments. Russia is controlling everything. And now we have the solution for you. Just give us some money and we'll give you the solution. So here, they're doing the same thing. We're just trying to combat disinformation, except they're the ones doing the disinformation, which I will show you in just a second. So if we skip all the way down here, it says the Institute for Statecraft is a not-for-profit charity. What the? So go down a little farther, and it says for its first 2 years, the Integrity Initiative was funded by private individuals. Funding for 2017 and 2018 was provided by a grant from the UK Foreign and Commonwealth Office, the FCO. That's a top British government organization. So that's the Integrity Initiative working with the Statecraft. What's it called? The Institute for Statecraft. Okay? It's supposed to be charity. And the whole operation appears to be run by and in conjunction with members of the British military intelligence. The Integrity Initiative claims that it is countering Russia disinformation and malign influence, and indeed, the main players behind it appear intent on hyping the Russian threat to justify ramped-up military budgets and a long-term war footing. And here's one of their retweets. So this is the Integrity Initiative. This is their account. They retweet this warmonger, Michael McFaul, who says, under Putin, Russia has become the world's greatest threat to the sovereignty of other nations. Really? How many countries has he? Remember when Putin and Russia went into Iraq and then Libya and then Yemen and then Syria and had occupied Afghanistan for 20 years? Remember that? Oh, no. But they're the biggest threat, not the United States. Okay. The United States, which has the world's biggest terrorist program, according to Noam Chomsky, called our drone program, which kills 90% of civilians. But it's another country that's Russia is so this is what they're tweeting out. The Integrity Initiative tweeted out, for crimes there must be punishments. New economic sanctions are a blunt but necessary tool for punishing illegal belligerent Russian behavior. So this is a great way to get your military budget increased, and Michael McFaul is a tool of them. And he's also, this guy, they always want more war. And they'll lie about it to get it. Here's Ben Norton again. He says, so here's the kind of work this charity does to try to combat disinformation. The UK government-funded bogus McCarthyite monitoring group, the Integrity Initiative, repeatedly smeared Jeremy Corbyn, while it claims to defend democracy against disinformation. This is effectively state-sponsored attacks on Jeremy Corbyn and the left. You want to see him? So here's an Integrity Initiative. Jeremy Corbyn's Mr. Corbyn was a useful idiot in the phrase apocryphally attributed to Lenin. That's the phrase apocryphally attributed to Lenin, that he's a useful idiot. His open, visceral anti-Westernism. They're talking about Corbyn. This is the Integrity Institute smearing Corbyn and red baiting him. His open, visceral anti-Westernism helped the Kremlin cause as surely as if he had been secretly peddling Westminster title tattle for money. That's supposed to be tattletale. Title-tale? Maybe they say it different over there. So there they are, smearing him as a Russian sympathizer. And if you can't read this, I'll tell you what it says. It says Jeremy Corbyn's sickening support of Soviet empire. Here's some more. An alleged British Corbyn supporter wants to vote for Putin. They're tweeting this stuff. Hey, somebody supports Corbyn, and they're Russia. They like Russia. This is the Integrity Institute or Initiative, and they're getting their money from the fucking government and NATO. Unlike Galloway, Corbyn does not scream conspiracy. He implies it. This is the Integrity Initiative. This is, again, these are the people saving you from Russia disinformation, the people who are smearing the left. And I told those motherfuckers who are pushing Russiagate that when you do this, they use this against the left, you dummies. Yeah, they're using it. You're using it against Trump right now because right now it serves your purposes. But what you're actually doing is sowing the seeds for your own demise. And here it is. If you prop up the Russiagate bullshit and you're on the left, they use it against you, you fucking idiots. And it doesn't take a genius to see it. Because a dumb guy like me, a C student, predicted this would happen, and fucking here it is. That's the government doing it. That's not some jagoff on Fox News. That's the government doing it. That's the Western governments doing this. The Western spy agencies doing this. This is NATO. Now you remember the Church Committee? Now you remember the 400 CIA journalists embedded in our... Here's another one. Skripal poisoning. It's time for Corbyn left to confront its Putin problem. This is the... This is the government doing this. And they're saying they're saving you from Russia. Disinformation. Ben Norton says a British government-funded disinformation organization is retweeting outrageous smears of anti-war journalist Rania Kalick and the war nerd. What? And Corbyn advisor Suemis Mine, amplifying the lies of leftist imperialist Alexander Reed Ross and Pat Hilsman. So he links to the tweets that smear anti-war journalists. I've been smeared also. If you're anti-war and you're on Twitter, you're going to get smeared by CIA operatives, and that's what this is. All right, so that's initially integrative. They're MI6, they're NATO, they're a spy organization. That's what happens, and then they have their journalists in Western media, like people who work for Mother Jones, repeating CIA propaganda. So that's happening again. It's happened again. And the reason why did you think you ever see? How about the people who got the Iraq War right? Why don't they ever have them on the news again? Why doesn't Phil Donahue have his own show? He got the Iraq War right. You think they'd give him his own fucking network?
Jimmy, have you heard anybody say peace on MSNBC, on any mainstream media? Anybody asking for peace?
Peace is bad. Peace is wrong on MSNBC.
Bring our troops home. Have you heard that? Bring our troops
home.
No, haven't heard that. But so this is fun to expose this. But again, mainstream news media will never touch this, and CNN will smear us as being Russian bots or whatever, or a conspiracy or whatever, even though they're pushing the biggest conspiracy of my lifetime, that Russia controls our government, and that our president is a traitor. That's the biggest conspiracy theory of my time. The only second conspiracy was the Iraq War. So that's a huge conspiracy. Second one will be this. But then there were some journalists who went to check out the Integrity Initiative's offices and the statecraft offices. And guess who they found when they went there? They got kicked out immediately. A couple different people went. And one of them was Kit Klarenberg of Sputnik Radio. They went to visit the statecraft offices. Well, here it is. Kit Klarenberg of Sputnik Radio entered the covert propaganda mill's neo-Gothic offices. As soon as he identified himself as a journalist, he was angrily ejected by an Institute for Statecraft staffer named Simon Bracey Lane, who worked for the Bernie Sanders campaign, who just never was in the politics before. And turns out he's in the basement of this fucking spy organization, and when a journalist comes in, he kicks them out. This is from their the Institute for Statecraft expert team. Roles and relevant experience. That's what it says right there. This is their expert team. This is from their own thing. Roles and relevant experience. Number 1, 2 Temple Place resident team. That's A. And what does it say? It says Simon Bracey Lane, semicolon, currently runs the IFS Integrity Initiative.
Whoa.
Network communications and network development process, deep experience in democratic election campaign processes in UK and especially in the United States. He was a regional campaign organizer for John Wisniewski for governor of New Jersey, USA, January-May 2017, statewide campaign organizer for Bernie Sanders.
I think that expression, deep experience, Jimmy, deep experience.
And then he was also special study on Russian interference in the U.S. election, 2016. I'm sorry.
So the idea where it says deep experience, to me,
deep state experience.
Yes,
deep
that's
state.
Exactly. Nobody says deep experience.
So people will call you. People will say, "Oh, do you some kind of crazy conspiracy?" No, there are spy agencies that spy, and you have to track them down, and that's what this is.
What are you saying that? Deep state infiltrates certain organizations?
Yes.
Is that what you're... Oh, come on.
What's the CIA? The CIA isn't spying on its own people, Jimmy. Like, well, this Institute for Statecraft honestly sounds like the name of some in a fictional sci-fi futuristic dystopian. The Institute of Statecraft is here to give you brain realignment. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds insane to me. But
the people who are saying the Russians are propagandizing us are actually the ones running their own propaganda to screw with our brains.
Yeah.
That's called the Western intelligence agencies, Western governments, NATO. Go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
It's funny, though. And they want it to seem sort of hocus pocus, smoke and mirrors. You can't really. They wanted to say, "Oh, you're crazy."
Yes.
All you got to do is boil it down to the money.
Follow the money.
Bernie and Jeremy Corbyn are talking people's issue, populist issues, progressive issues. That's a threat to the ruling class, man. So you better smear them. You better have your Institute for Deep Statery, send your guys out and start this kind of nonsense. And look what they got. They got some hipster Brit who's just, I was backpacking and I had to join the movement.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
I'm just a young hippie kid who really got interested because of Bernie.
Why do you? And that's the thing. This is how clever they are. We want to think that the CIA and the deep state is some guy in a crew cut. No, It's going to be a dude with a tattoo. It's going to be a hipster. It's going to be a guy that vapes and listens to metal. That's who they're going to send.
And if you have, by the way, if you were at Standing Rock, you know it was infiltrated by cops and spooks and CIA and FBI. They infiltrated Occupy Wall Street. If there's a lefty, I bet you the DSA has a bunch of spooks inside them.
Yeah.
So if you have a lefty organization, you're going to have CIA and FBI guys inside you. Well, in this case, if you had Bernie Sanders, you had MI6 inside you. You had British intelligence in there, which is anti-left wing, you motherfuckers.
And wait a minute now. I thought we were all up in arms about a foreign country meddling in our elections.
Here, oh my God.
That's a foreign country. A foreign spy agency is sending people in a presidential candidate's campaign. That's not meddling?
Another foreign spy named Steele talked to people inside the Kremlin to get dirt on one of the candidates running for president of the United States, and then released it. That's called the dossier, the Steele dossier. So they had a guy in England, former spy, collaborating with people inside the Kremlin to get dirt on a presidential candidate. Isn't that exactly what Hillary Clinton's campaign and the Democrats accused Trump of doing? That's exactly what they coordinated with Russia to get dirt, which they got those emails that prove that the Democratic Party is cheating their own people. They never say that part. So here we are. This is, again, it's, I didn't figure this out. Max Blumenthal and Ben Norton and several people like that figured this out. I'm just re-reporting their reporting. But the fact that I stumbled onto it and say somebody like, I don't know, fucking Jake Tapper hasn't, or Rachel Maddow, reveals them to be liars, reveals them to be propagandists of the highest order. And I'm not saying I'm better than them, because you offer me $30,000 a day, and I'll sell you a bottle of piss and tell you it's truth serum.
Yeah, you pay me $10 million a year. Political vigilante is going to be talking about how we need to stay in Syria.
Yeah, we got to stay in Syria.
We got to stay in Syria. I just got to stay.
I mean, normally I'm anti-war, but this time it makes sense.
Well, we need an exit strategy, Jimmy.
We certainly do.
We need a really
you can't just pull out You can't just stop killing people willy-nilly.
No, I mean, we can't. What happens if we stop killing civilians for profit, Jimmy? What's that going to do for us as a people? That's not our values.
So because it's hard to make profits on helping homeless people in America, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it really is. You can't turn a profit that way.
That's bad for homeless people are bad for capitalism. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
let's get rid of them.
And they're dirty.
So this is how we would do a newscast if we were being paid what Rachel Maddow gets paid. Hey, let's talk about net neutrality. I'm not really sure about it.
It seems weird to me.
Seems okay. It's a big deal. I know that, but I'm not sure.
Look, Jimmy, there's two sides to climate change. All right? So let's give them both fair play. We're fair and balanced here.
All right. Now you know why people get their news from YouTube. If you like our content, looking for ways to help support, here's a great mug or a t-shirt or a thing. You can get it right underneath there, or you can become a patron to our show. We give you hours of bonus material every week. Plus, come see a live Jimmy Dore show. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all our live shows. And make sure you're subscribed. I know it sounds crazy, but they unsubscribe people from our show all the time, and you have to click that bell so they send you a notice when we drop a video. Thanks for your support.